Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu met with the newly appointed security chiefs at the presidential villa in Abuja on Monday. The meeting was the first since the appointment of new security chiefs on the 19th of June. In attendance at the meeting were the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, the Chief of Defense Staff, Christopher Musa, Chief of Army Staff, Taurid Lagbaja, Chief of Naval Staff, Emmanuel Gala, Chief of Air Staff, Hassan Abubakar, and the Acting Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetukun. Joining us to discuss the meeting of the President and the security chiefs is a security analyst, Kabiru Adamu. Kabiru, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. And first of all, what do you make of this particular meeting? And more importantly, do you think this will set the ball rolling for something a little bit different, kinetically, as they would say in the army, than what we've seen in previous times, from their body language, basically?
Thank you, Aaron. Pleasure to be here again. As you know, the appointment of the new leadership in the security sector was made, I think, on the very day that the president was traveling outside Nigeria to attend the summit in Paris, and then from there he went on a private holiday. So that meeting was the first, the inaugural meeting, as it were, where the president has met this new security leadership. And they did have about 1 hour closed door session where I'm hoping he reminded them of his security agenda. I took time, I went through the Renewed Hope manifesto that he shared with Nigerians during the campaigns. And in that Renewed Hope manifesto, there is a 7-point security agenda listed there. So I'm hoping that that meeting allowed him to discuss that 7-point agenda, remind them of what he intends to achieve in the security sector, and then, of course, he most likely would have instructed them to go about achieving the objectives of that 7-point agenda. Now, we're told by the new National Security Advisor in a press briefing after the meeting that he emphasized collaboration and that he also emphasized the support that he's going to give them. One thing that I was a little bit happy about is the presence of the SGF in that meeting. Most times we tend not to recognize the role that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation plays in security. That office is quite important in the coordination element that the security sector needs. I'm hoping that that directive by Mr. President, both on cooperation, that he will give the security sector, and then for them to collaborate to address the security challenges within the country. That office, the SGF, will pick that presidential directive, turn it into an instrument of government, and then develop key performance indicators for which we monitor the performances of these security organizations in meeting that presidential directive. So I'm very happy with this first step. I think it's the initial stages of how this government intends to address the security challenge within the country. And I would like to emphasize that as part of that 7-point agenda, the government has listed the desire to win the hearts and minds of Nigerians. And frankly, there is no sector where the government can easily win the hearts and minds of Nigerians like the security sector. If the security challenge is reduced and Nigerians are able to see an improvement in the security sector, then their ability to support the government would be higher than if the security challenges continue.
Okay, thank you so much for setting the tone of this conversation. Now, we know that the new service chiefs have their work cut out for them. You know, the key area of focus for the president, even during his campaign, was insecurity. So I want to talk about, your expectations. We do know that at this point, they will be judged by their results. So we're looking at insurgency, banditry, header clashes, agitations in the southeast, crude oil theft. And the president has been has hammered on synergy between these service chiefs. So how do you foresee the collaboration and coordination between the security agencies, particularly military and intelligence services? What challenges or opportunities do you believe may arise from this dynamic?
Thank you very much, and a lovely question. This is just the first step, the appointment of the some leadership within the security sector. What needs to follow, and I'm hoping that the president is looking in that direction, is the appointment of the cabinet positions within the security sector. There are about 4 to 5 ministers that are relevant to achieving the kind of agenda that the president has within the security sector. So the ministers of interior, ministers of defense, minister of police affairs, to an extent, the minister of justice. Now, the type of persons the president appoints, we can extend it to even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because when you speak national security, you are speaking of national power, and anything that can add to national power, including national cohesion. And so the role the Ministry of Interior and the several other ministries that would help improve national cohesion, I think is absolutely important. So I'm hoping that this is the first step. The second step is we have a convoluted national security structure. At the last time when I sat down, I counted about 29 ministries, departments, and agencies that are involved in security. And sadly, some of the relevant security functions, like police as an example, it's been balkanized and divided within these ministries. So some policing functions are under the Ministry of Interior, others are under the Ministry of Police Affairs, which is the main police itself, and then others are even spread to the presidency as an example. So that is the one major challenge that this new security leadership will be confronted with. And sadly, that responsibility is not theirs to address. It is the presidency and to an extent the National Assembly that would have to solve that challenge. In other words, look at the security structure, see this convoluted situation that I've just referred to, and then come up with some review on how to reduce that convoluted structure. I've got some ideas, especially with regards to the Ministry of Interior, because if you have now policing agencies that are divided among several ministries, you can't achieve coordination or collaboration. So as an example, there has to be a revampment of the various security bodies. I mean the National Security Council, the National Police Council, the State Council, and the several others. Under the immediate past administration, they were not sitting as regularly as they should have been sitting. I'm hoping that in this new administration, we'll see this council sitting as more regularly. The meeting that was held yesterday, the expectation was that the moment the cabinet positions are appointed, the various ministers that I've mentioned, then the security bodies will now start sitting regularly as against an ad hoc meeting like the type that we saw yesterday, so that the various administrative structures that would support the governance will be there. When you have ad hoc meetings like that, the capacity of the administrative structure to implement the decisions at that meeting is reduced. So that's, I think, challenge number one. Challenge number two is the legacy that would have been inherited from the immediate past security administration. As an example, if you pick the office of the National Security Advisor, one of the challenges is that that office has been operationalized by the immediate past occupants of those offices, and it's causing a little bit of friction within the security sector. So how do they go back to their traditional mandate of advising the president and not necessarily taking up operational functions? That is something that the occupant of that office will have to deal with. The concerns in some quarters that the occupant of that office is a non-military person. That concern too would need to be addressed so that whatever grievances may have been inherited would be challenged. I talked about national cohesion earlier on. The administration wants to win the hearts and minds of the people. With this level of distrust directed at the security agencies, we need to address that level of distrust. And the best way to do that is to enhance the capability of the security organizations. And it's all about enhancing monitoring and evaluation within the sector. So I'm hoping that the National Security Advisor, the cabinet positions, once they are appointed, would look at monitoring and evaluation within the security sector. And then, of course, improve on the elements of monitoring and evaluation. If I look back, I run an organization and we have a database where we keep developments. We know that about 78,000 Nigerians have been killed in the last 10 years. So every year, it means about 7,800 Nigerians are being killed. Now, the best way to measure the performance of the leadership within the security sector is to reduce that fatality volume, so that at the end of 2023, if we reduce that to, let's say, 5,000, and then by 2024 we reduce it to 3,000 like that, then we'll be able to look back and say they are doing well. Anything short of that, it means they are not doing well. So I think I agree with you. Their work is cut out for them. We will be watching. We will be keeping tabs of this development. We will be advising them. And I hope that they understand that the elements of national power, all the elements I've listed, is what would be their success. If they go the line of what the previous administration did, which is to concentrate mainly on the military element, which is the kinetic component that Aaron referred to, then sadly we may look back and say they should have done better. They should approach it from a whole of government approach, a whole of society approach, and have the support of everyone. The media is critical. I cannot overemphasize this point. The media shapes opinion. Religious bodies shape opinions, and we need to carry everybody along so that at the end of the day, security, like we say, is everybody's business.
All right. Dr. Kabiru, Dr. Adamu, I beg your pardon. I've just listened to you, and you said that their work is cut out for them. But it baffles me, and I am actually worried when I get to see reports like the ones that have actually come out in time past, whereby a man like Asari Dokubo is boasting and saying that he was the one that brought stability and a little bit of tranquility to that Abuja-Kaduna axis. That's not until he actually came on board. That place was just fraught with chaos, so to speak. Of course, the news about the fact that Tompolo is guiding our pipelines where our military could not do that. The fact that even Asari has actually accused the military about probably being masterminders of the oil theft. They talks about maybe dating back to the Jonathan era, whereby they had to bring in mercenaries to be able to quiet down and actually bring a little bit of stability to the north when or at the height of the Boko Haram. My big question is this a case of conspiracy to frustrate the military, or is it that the military are not just equipped to handle the difficulties and handle the travails we face in the Nigerian today? Noting that we've seen our military do so much in successful missions with the ECOMOG and several other places. Talk to me about this. It worries me a lot.
Beautiful question, Aaron. I have my views about Asari Dokubo, but please permit me to keep them to myself. Some of the statements that you alluded to, I think, were extremely delusional. And frankly, I think we should focus on more important things. Earlier on, I alluded to the fact that there are 29 ministries, departments, and agencies in security in Nigeria. Now, out of that 29, the military represents only 4. So the other 25 are either paramilitary, intelligence, or non-military organizations. Point I'm trying to make is, it was a mistake, and it will still be a mistake to continue to see the military as the panacea for our security challenges. They are contributory. 4 out of 25, in no way, if whatever fraction you do, does not represent majority. Are they important? Yes, they are important. They present a key role, but they can never supersede the role played by the other organizations. And that is the kind of prism I'm hoping that the Bola Ahmed administration would look at security from. All of the 29 are important. Now, we all agree, and I'm hoping that you are also on board here with me, that part of the challenge we have in Nigeria is weapons proliferation. A significant portion of that weapon is not produced locally in Nigeria. They are imported through our borders. And that means if we look at border security, we should ask ourselves which security agencies have responsibility or the mandate for protecting our borders. And I can quickly tell you that it's the immigration and the customs. So if the challenge is one of weapons proliferation, one out of several challenges, what role can the military play there? Very little. We need to look at those two organizations customs and immigration. Why have they not been able to protect our borders and limit the entries of these weapons that are causing the kind of mass casualties that we're discussing in the Northwest, in the Northeast as an example, would reduce significantly if we reduce the inflow of both the weapons and the ammunition that are being used. So it is this mindset that I approach security with. What is the mandate? What is the role? What is the contribution of each and every one of these 29 ministries, departments, and agencies? Another example I will give is the justice system. We've kind of agreed, when you do a sociological inquiry into the security challenge in Nigeria, you will find out that the ineffective and the weak justice system is a contributory factor to the national security challenge that we have. Now, is it the military that will strengthen that weak justice system? Clearly, no. It is more around those agencies of law enforcement and the Ministry of Justice strengthening the court system so that offenders are arrested and they are prosecuted, and then the deterrence element within our national security paradigm is strengthened. In that regard, the role of the state government is also absolutely important. Third example I'll give is the socioeconomic challenges that are driving insecurity. What role can the military play in addressing those security socioeconomic challenges? Very little. It's more about government policies, both federal and state governments. And then, of course, those socioeconomic challenges will be addressed. Climate change, what role can the military play in that regard? Point I'm making is the military, yes, they are important, but we should come back from this idea of focusing on the role of the military in national security. It is important, but it can never supersede the role of the other the 25 other agencies. And I'm hoping that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration would look at security from that angle. It talks about collaboration, it talks about coordination, it talks about cooperation. It is only when you look at these 29, identify their mandate, find out what has limited them in performances. Earlier on, I talked about monitoring and evaluation. This is what I'm looking at. Introduce accountability, both financial accountability and operational accountability, using M&E, monitoring and evaluation, and auditing functions. And then that brings me to the role of the National Assembly, the oversight function. We need to also remind the National Assembly, the leadership of the National Assembly has not yet appointed the committee chairman. I'm hoping that when they appoint the committee chairman, they appoint individuals who understand that oversight roles is crucial in our national security objective, so that it is not the case like what happened in previous administrations, where these persons become collaborators and not necessarily those that are playing oversight functions. The role of the staffers within the National Assembly is also absolutely important. All the committees have clerks. Those clerks are the engine room upon which the committees operate. If you have individuals who are functional, are effective, then all of that will play. So I hope, I've kind of addressed the question. It's not an easy solution, but if we bring all of these things together, then we will have a functional system that you and I as Nigerians will be happy about. If we carry on with the military legacy and continue seeing the legacy as the only arm of the security sector that can solve our challenge, then I'll be sad to say that we would look back 4 years down the road and would not make any progress.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kabiru. We've run out of time. I'd love to ask you about how the acting Inspector General of Police could use state policing as an effective way of helping as well. But we'll definitely have you back on Newsday. Thank you for being here.